how often, as we go through life, we put our hopes and our trust and our desire for truth and justice in things outside ourselves. And then when they crumble, we get very discouraged. We get cynical about life. We can't trust. And we forget that's not where it's in, because those people too are just like you, and they're keeping those institutions going because there's a little cui bono here. I mean, it's worthwhile to them, and we forget that. We somehow feel that we've got to put something in outside ourselves to get at the really roots of our integrity, and that's not where it's at. It's always in you. So if the rest of the society crumbles, so what? You're still there. You're still standing. And I see that as a turning point in your growth. That one day, surreptitiously, accidentally, on purpose, you have to come to the realization that you are the source of virtue, of justice, of truth, and it's up to you. Doesn't mean you become mistrustful of life, no, but you see it for what it really is, with all its foibles and possibilities. But you won't until you recognize that you are the source of that vision. It's not relative either. It's objective. It's what the things are. And it takes us a while, because as children we grew up, we put all our hopes in mom and dad and other places, and then suddenly realize mom is not the prettiest woman on the block. And that's a big shock sometimes, you know, and dad's not the smartest man that I know over 21. But we got to get through that, don't we? You know, there's that famous story of the Tibetan yogi called Milarepa. He was a crook, a gangster. Yeah, he was wanted. And he decides to turn his life around. So he meets a teacher. And the teacher says, oh, you really don't want it. Why don't you just continue the way you are, because that's all you're good for. I love teachers like that, who don't take you right away and say, come on, you're not serious. You just had a fling and a little guilty conscience hit you. And he begs him and begs him and begs him, and he goes through all kinds of grovelings and finally says, okay, tell you what I want you to do. I want you to build a hut out of rocks. Oh, good. Now, see those rocks over there? Yeah. Well, I want the hut to be over here. Whoa! And you can't use a wagon and you can't use donkeys. You got to carry the rocks from there to there, according to my blueprint. So, you got to do it every day. If you take a day off, it's over. Get out of my life. Will you promise me enlightenment? Yep. You do this, I'll get you to enlightenment. That's my guarantee. So he drags the rocks and he sweats and cuts his hands and he gets it all done. He's proud of himself, Took him about a week. And so he goes to his master and says, will you come and inspect it? Of course. And he goes over and says, that's not what I wanted. Yeah. I want you to put it over here. So take every rock apart and put it over here. And follow the plan the way I told you. So you know what happens. He does it again and again. And this time that master says, oh, let's add a few more rocks. He finally gets it built. He goes and has him inspect it. And he says, well, what do you think? That's not what I wanted. I wanted it over there. What? But you sassing me? No. Do it or get out. I don't have any patience, with whiners. So, does it again. 7 times. He's exhausted. He's scarred. He's bleeding. And finally he says, yeah, he finally done it. What he didn't know, his master was working on him. Why do you suppose it were 7 times, huh? Of all the violations of his consciousness, all the levels of consciousness, that he betrayed, abused, exploited, that's what each hovel meant. And he built them according to the actual pictures of the chakras. It's a beautiful story. You know, I told it in a sloppy way, but you go read it sometime. It's worth it. Just type it in, Milarepa. The point is, he came to a realization of who he was, what he did, and renounced it. I don't want to be that way anymore. He saw life. He penetrated through his own selfishness, his narrowness, his prejudices. And the whole mythical story is that he had to do it through labor, not through taking a weekend course in self-development or a correspondence course in self-improvement. No. Or just, doing some physical exercise. No, he had to go through this because he resented physical labor. He hated it. That was for lazy people, the poor. So he put him right in that. And through that, his consciousness began to change. See, what fascinates me is that we have something inside of us. I never stop, wow, because I know there's more, and I've got to spend my time in it to find out what's yet to be discovered, and that is how we get knowledge. Yeah, through our senses, I agree. And our intelligence in some way works with the senses, with the body, and making contact with what's out there. And when I go out to the garden and I look at those 9 pine trees, those trees are in me. That's what knowledge means. There's a perfect identity. It's not an abstraction. It's not I'm looking at an idea of the tree. The tree is actually in me, but it's not going to be growing out of my ears. Because it's in a different mode of being. But it's the same tree. Identically the same tree that's out there, that's in my mind as knowledge. And that's astounding when you think of it, that you and I have something in us that enables it to completely permeate a reality outside of it and make it its own. It's as if the tree had schizophrenia. It's in 2 places at once. Literally it is. But it's in one mode out there in its actual concreteness, and it's in you in a spiritual or immaterial way. And that is really amazing when you think about it. Because that means you have the capacity beyond the tree. The tree can only know itself, so to speak. But you can know anything. Anything that exists. Because your consciousness is made for reality. That's its home field. That's where it knows itself. Think for a moment. If you close your eyes, you can't see. But the moment you open them, reality says, here I am. Comes right in. It's effortless. And so in our practice, through meditation, through our acceptance of life, what happens is we become so attuned after a while that we can just know what's there. This comes. If I may use a crude example, when you meet a dog, the dog knows you for what you are. He knows whether you're an honest person or not. He knows instantly. He doesn't have to think about it. have you do a survey, a questionnaire. He just knows. That kind of discernment is what is meant by our consciousness in its contact with life. We are meant to get to that level where when we ponder anything, we know it. And it's truly in us as it's existing out there, but in a different mode of being. And that's why Aristotle had the astounding insight one day in one of his works that the soul seems to be made for the entire universe. And Swami Rama said, your soul is a nucleus and its goal is the universe. He swiped it from Aristotle. And I can't I can never stop. There's so much there that I can draw upon if I ponder it, because that's one of the secrets. Let me check. Yeah. That's one of the secrets of when you dwell on consciousness. It says, okay, I'm going to give you more. Keep going. Keep going. And sometimes you will notice things and things will come to you out of the blue and you wonder. I was with someone recently, and as we got in the car and started to drive, about maybe 6 or 7 minutes later, we came to University and Snelling, and I was in the second lane heading south, right before we crossed the street, and a pickup truck came on my left and went a little ahead of me, and suddenly I looked to the left and the car behind it crashed right into it, broke open the front, and another car crashed into them. I could have reached out and touched the crashed car. And the person I was with said, I saw this 10 minutes ago, but I didn't know where it was going to happen. And I knew we'd be there, right near it. Interesting. You know, how does the mother know when she hears the child? Oh boy. She can tell immediately what type of cry it is. Now, so we have this, you want to call it spirit, mind, consciousness, it doesn't matter. It's just that there are no holes barred. You set it up. And the trap is we get caught up in our ideas. And we assume that is the border of reality. On some, this guy's got his new PhD in electrical engineering. He thinks he knows it all about what's going on in the computer field. Or some guy gets his MD and he's got it. He knows everything you need to know about human anatomy and its ailments. And the danger is we become almost obsessed, enthralled, if you will, with the fact that we've got this truth, and it's truth, but somehow we've said, that's it, that's all. That's the danger. It's not the identifying with the truth or the idea. It's the fact that you now seal it off. Because knowledge is union. It's an identification. You must, otherwise you don't have knowledge, you don't have truth. But the way you use it, the way the importance you give it, that's the key here. So when Swamiji walked down the vinegar, here was the bright ones, the elite of the elites in the field of neurology and biofeedback, and what they thought they knew everything there was about human consciousness, the brain, and its relationship to the body. And he literally shattered their world. And all of them couldn't handle it. All of them. They all walked away. He allowed them to do it on their terms, and he just walked completely past whatever they could have expected. So, That is the test. Unlike Milarepa, they didn't build the hut that they could have. They pulled back. Because their hearts and their minds were set just in within their world. So Swamiji was just an aberration that everybody will forget. We'll just put it on this, the archives. He was here, a couple of times in 1970, and that was it. Because I've been watching and waiting, I read as much as I can in other journals. Has anybody ever picked up on those experiments? No. So here was a breakthrough that made us redefine what human consciousness is. This was a major, major revolutionary change in our consciousness in modern times, and it was ignored. But there it is. There, he allowed them to set up the criteria for proof, confirmation, evidence. So he said, come on, I'll deal with you. And he just went beyond it. And so there'll be moments in your life, perhaps occasionally, when you're going to be asked to go beyond what you think right now is the final answer. Ooh. Whether it be in the act of even love. Can you love this person under the duress that might be there? At the same time, even though you may respect the institutions, as our lawyer did, can you see that they're not perfect? Can you deal with that? When I talked already about the Ellsberg situation. But there are many things, when you think about it, there hasn't been a time in my life, and I'm older than all of you, when we haven't been at war. Always for good reasons, of course. Most of them are false. Because somebody's pushing their agenda and making it appear attractive and virtuous and good and so on, but it wasn't. And one day you got to realize when you come to that, oh my God, I've been lied to. I know people who, as they grew up, moved away from their parents for whatever reason and then came back, were told stories that weren't true about their parents. And, it shook them up because here they had put all their trust and so on. So what I'm getting at is we are, in some way, creatures of our culture. We're caught at times in certain perspectives because we have to. My point is, you don't abandon the perspective, you just revise it. You have to deal with life, and one day you've got to realize, among all your sadnesses, your melancholy, and your feelings of sorrow for yourself, hey, that justice is in me. I will live as a just person, regardless of how my neighbors are. Now you're on your way. Now the universe will say, we got a live one here. Let's share more secrets with her. We can trust her. Because she has no hidden agendas. She just wants to know truth. She wants to do good. She wants to experience the beauty of existence. And that's what purity is all about. It's seeing things as they really are. It's improving the vision you have when you look out at life and say, now I know what to do. And remember our famous psychologist Abraham Maslow? Peak experiences and self-realization, one of the few that ever came up with it. Whereas Freud studied everybody who failed, Maslow studied everybody who won. He wanted to know what was the common denominators here. Huh? So he didn't study the also-rans, he studied the champs. And he began to notice common characteristics that were found among these people. And one of the most remarkable statements he made that really caught my eyes one day, he said, when you get to the point when you have integrated your life, where you love the good, you seek the true, and you're willing to share with other people, reality itself starts to give you secrets you would have never known until you arrived at that level of integration. You finally start to see the wisdom of whatever is manifested. And that's your nature. You've got a body. You're an incarnated spirit. You're not an angel imprisoned in the matter. You're this incarnated spirit. You want to know the intelligible things that are in matter because they reflect your nature. And that's why you came. You're not here to run away from your body. You're not here to escape into nirvana. The more you can embrace and understand the materiality in which you find yourself, the happier you're going to be. The happier. Happiness is not by running away from the body and life and all the, the shebang. It's dealing with it. Enjoying it for what it is. It's temporary. It's finite. So, it's meant to be. But in there are glimmers to something else, if you know how to perceive. And that's where your practice comes in. It's through doing the meditation that you get clear insights into the world. And what does that give you? Freedom. A lot of people are not free, they're afraid. They're so caught up in self-preservation that they don't have the freedom to make choices, to take a little risk, to explore, okay, so it didn't work out the way I did, I'll live. So that's what we're heading for, I think, as human beings, to feel our freedom, which we have to earn by learning to pay attention, and to not be afraid to make mistakes. You have built into you a certain sensitivity. We all do. We can call it conscience, if you will, but it's there. It'll help you. And then one day you'll realize, hey, you can share because you're already apprehending the kind of truth that you feel in your heart and the love that you have both for yourself and others. And you realize slowly all your fears are vanishing. You don't need to have them anymore. Why were they there in the first place? But you have to grow into it. And you can't grow by pulling back from life. Our tradition is you're meant to be in the world, and yet recognize that there's so much more. Now, how to put that all together, each of you have to do it in your own way. But the principles are there, the techniques are there, and if you don't use them, you're not going to be able to put it together. So you're going to have to build your huts, and not all of them are going to be successful. You may have to build them again, like someone we just talked about. But each time you do, you'll learn something. I've talked long enough. Yep, covered it all. All the secrets.